Night shift horror when the store starts watching you. On some nights the store felt empty in a normal way, but this was the kind of quiet that listened back. Marcus had worked the night shift long enough to feel when a bad quiet settled in. A quel silencio che pari severe de volta. And it pressed on him before the automatic doors even parted, laying cold across his shoulders like a coat that never dried. The gas station sat stranded beside a ribbon of highway, glass walls glowing like an aquarium left uncovered, and the lot lights cut weak halos on the asphalt that stopped where the tall grass began to move in slow, stubborn waves. Inside, the tubes above him hummed with a white glare that thinned every color to something sickly, chip bags paling, candy wrappers washed to near memory, tiles keeping the faint ghosts of muddy tread the mop could smear but never erase. The refrigerator line at the back rattled out of rhythm, compressors sighing, frames giving small shivers, doors breathing cold that learned a path up the line of his spine each time he passed, as if the air had fingers and a habit. Coffee left too long on the warmer freighted the room with a bitter film, mixed with rubber dust and the antiseptic sweetness of a cleaning product that never quite beat whatever had settled into the grout years before he came. And beneath that lay a stale sugar note, the afterlife of some ancient spill behind the candy rack that time had not convinced to let go. The security monitors stuttered with a marginal delay that made his own walk look borrowed, and he trained himself not to stare because two versions of his shoulders out of sync could throw a small hook into the gut, a trick the brain fell for in the lull between trucks. Outside, headlights came in bursts that carried their own weather and then were gone, and during those gaps the glass turned to a wide dark mirror where the store climbed over his outline and drifted a fraction wrong, as if the figure in the panel paused for a thought he had not had. On the corner of the counter a silent horror movie through splashes of corridor and running and paint-thick blood that passed red over the gum stand, and then left it to its natural pale. Somewhere in the shelving a tremor ran soft as breath, a little tightening of paperback spines and blister packs, and he noticed his heartbeat without meaning to, the way you notice a room noticing you and pretend a name does not exist for it yet. The first hour did what first hours do in places like that, moving by in little jobs that felt made to be repeated until the mind wore smooth. He stacked cigarette cartons and turned the logos square to the aisle, lined lighters by color as if that could teach order to the rest of the night, counted the till and then, for no reason he would admit, counted it again. He walked with a roll of price labels and pressed small fresh numbers onto items that never left the store, each click of adhesive a proof of work for a thing no one wanted. And here and there he found a stray novelty mug or an energy drink with a dare written on it, the kind of merchandise ordered by a person who had never seen how long a shelf could hold a promise. The radio behind the lottery stand caught only a thin field of static that rose and fell like a sleeping chest, and he thumbed the volume until the rush became part of the building's own breath. A cardboard display sagged near the snack end cap, and when he nudged it upright it let out a dry complaint that sounded louder than it should have in a room with no conversation. He told himself the prickle under the skin was sleep debt made physical, the burnt coffee, the way fluorescence takes the edge off the clock, the simple fact that his body had forgotten which hours were for living and which for surviving the aisles. Then a driver came in, set a single soda on the counter without meeting his eyes, paid cash that felt damp from a pocket, and left again. The kind of transaction that would not stick to memory on any decent day. Only the monitors did not look right after. Their palette thinned. Contrast stretched until the corners looked fogged, as if a film of gray air had stepped between the cameras and the room. One frame showed the far end of the candy aisle without a blemish, wrappers in frozen alignment under the hard light, but on the adjacent feet a hanging price tag seemed to lean by a degree it had not held a moment before, and he could not assign the change to a draft or a door or the heavy luck of a truck passing close. He jogged the recording back 60 seconds and forward again, and the tag behaved like a student after a prank, perfect for the playback, disobedient only in the unguarded moment you cannot show to anyone else. What followed did not arrive with a jump, only a tightened coil behind the eyes, the constant sense of being one beat late to the truth. He dropped the bottle into a plastic bag that whispered against the counter, and listened for the engine to turn over in the lot, and got only stillness, the truck sitting in its light like a prop that had always been there. His hands took the pale wash from the screens, and in that layered glow his fingers wore a shadow that lagged by a heartbeat, so he tested the wood edge with his palm, and found it reliably solid. the way you touch a railing on a stair to hear the structure answer. He looked at his reflection in the night side of the glass, and at the store flooding through himself, and could not say whether the wrongness had leased a corner of the building or a corner of his nerves. After 2, when the highway fell to rumor, and even the darts of sound you were sure of lost their outlines, he made the walk he always postponed to the dead center of the shift, the one meant to insist that the store existed in 3 dimensions and not mainly as a grid of feeds. He moved past motor oil pyramids and cracked footballs with their shine going dull, past windshield fluid stacked like short blue columns, and the overlapping hums above and behind worked themselves into a single note that you did not hear so much as where the drinks met the snacks the camera angles always failed to cross. And there he stopped to straighten candy bars with his knuckles, and found a pocket of air 10 degrees colder than the next step over. Not the honest chill that leaks from a door, but a local weather that obeyed no machine. He blamed the building, because you always blame the building first. And yet the hairs on his forearms rose in agreement with another idea. A fine electrical grammar moving shelf to shelf. A thin dark scuff had appeared on the tile at his shoe as if something had been dragged, and then lifted with care. And when he let his eyes follow the mark, it pointed down the shortest line to the blind corner where the cameras failed and human sight became a suggestion. The sound that came was small, a readjustment, the shift a body makes when it thinks it has been seen, and every part of him knew that one step would end the question and begin something else. His legs did not lock, yet he did not take the step, because an older calculus in the mind had already chosen the cost of knowing over the cost of carrying an unfinished shape, so he stayed with the candy bar clenched until the paper gave, while the cold folded itself once more around the back of his neck. In the gloss of the cooler door his reflection showed the aisle behind exactly the way he had arranged it, and only then wrong by degrees. A shoulder carried at an angle his own frame did not favor, a head that tipped in a way his neck refused, eyes that felt misaligned with his skull by a distance you could not measure, only fear. The longer he matched himself to the version in the pane, the more the timing fell out. A blink that ended late, a chest that did not ride the breath he knew he was taking, as if the man behind the glass were listening for a cue from a room not present. The impulse to break the reflection with darkness rose and touched the light switch in his head, and then fell away because unlit space would only thicken the shape he refused to name. He backed out of the pocket one careful shoe length at a time, heart counting in the ribs with an authority he obeyed, and in doing so he felt the store decide it could wait, that the presence would live where his vision failed as long as it pleased, that the night had a spine and a posture, and it had straightened. He left the corner unlearned, and the cameras kept their lie, and the road outside went on making and unmaking light, and in the layered glass his outline found the aisles again, almost correct, almost aligned, close enough to pass until another hour tried the edges and found them soft, and the shape between shelves kept its patient place inside that softness.